Hi and welcome to the November episode of Knit Happens. Here in my studio once again, bit of a mess. Steps are still, as I've just noticed, behind me here, just here in the corner. But I have put up the final one of my embroideries that my mum did for me. So that is absolutely wonderful. And then you can see mountains of yarn drying behind me and cardboard boxes ready for the wild weaving session we are having on Saturday with my Wild Women group. So, a little bit later than planned this month. Sorry, keep looking down. The puppy is presenting me with a ball and it keeps landing in my shoe and it's wet because we've just been over the field for a walk. So, a little bit later than planned because your last week was all about recovering from the last yarn show of the year, Newton Abbot, Stitch Fest. That was the first time I've been down to Stitch Fest. And what a lovely little festival. It is really lovely. Such a nice vibe there. And yeah, lots of yarn sales. So always good. So what have I been working on? Lots, basically. But the main thing that I've been working on here in my sheepy project bag, which is weirdly actually a cool bag, but I ended up appropriating it for a project bag because it's a nice waterproof one. So if I'm out and about, I don't have to worry about my project getting all smudged. Now, I believe I've stopped halfway through a row here. Yeah, I have. Halfway through one of the rows. So this is my Stephen West MCAL, the Mystery Musicale. And because I've had quite a lot of knit school work to do and also Newton Abbot Stitch Fest, which took me away for a whole weekend, and I didn't take it with me because I thought in a dark camper van it might not be a good idea to be doing such dark colours in some ways. But I'm getting there, and I'm just trying to work out which way around it goes. It is in a right royal tangle because I stopped halfway through a row. I knew I shouldn't have last night. Well, actually no, fairly close to the end, which makes it even riskier. So I am currently on the really long rows of brioche at the end. Here is my clue one, which are these. So you've got garter stitch, you've got welts, you've got brioche, you've got eyelets. You've used every single colour in clue one and pretty much all the techniques in clue one. So that was my clue one. My clue two, very carefully, because it is attached in the middle. I'm just going to watch those needles like a hawk. If they come off, I will howl. Brioche is not fun to pick up. So I'm going to hold them. Clue two here then, with these great big swipes of colour across, which I rather enjoyed. It was quite nice knitting some longer lines after the fun and games. So I went a bit off piece and I put a bright colour in because I felt like the orange was kind of missing out. So I shoved an extra orange stripe in there just to give it a bit of zing part way through. Then clue three, which seemed to take me forever, but that's probably because I had a weekend away in the middle of it. And the ends on clue three, most of them, anything that finished on the edge got woven in to the I cord. Everything else still needs weaving in at the end. Why didn't I weave in as I went along? Why? I say this every time, I still never will. So there's clue three's modules in there, which I rather like the effect of, especially with the variegated yarn. Just really gives it some texture. And then my favoritist bit, sorry, needle's trying to escape again. My favoritist bit, I really like that basket case section on the end, basket weave. That is probably my favoritist bit. And it was quite nice because it was ever decreasing rows. So it just got quicker and quicker to get to the end of that one. And then you go in and pick up, and I'm doing some brioche, and I'm hoping I've got enough of the other two colours, the brown and the orange, to do another row of brioche before the I-cord bind off. Even if I have to do the I-cord bind off in 4 different colours, I'll just divide out the stitches and do it in all the colours. But nearly there now, nearly there. But I say that, and it'll probably be at least another week's worth of knitting, because I get really limited knitting time. People don't realise how little knitting time on my projects I actually get at the moment, because I am doing so much in the way of the designing work and also putting together all the Knit School modules for teaching. So in honour of that, here are some of my Knit School modules that I have been working on. So I've been working on, the last couple of months, we've been working on brioche, moving the brioche around. That nearly drove me insane, trying to work out that, and I am yet to complete the pattern for that in its entirety, because it drove me insane. So we had lots of different tryouts of different things, moving them around. They're all double-sided. Some sides look better than others. So that's what I was trying to get right last month. I did some in the greens and browns and just seeing what happened. Basically, I was playing with the increasing and decreasing terminology and just seeing what happened. This little guy was the starts of the pattern, which is quite cute. Goes across through the middle. So, and then on the green side, again, I feel with the brioche increases, they do look better on the right side, you know, rather than, you know, I know brioche is supposed to be reversible, but I find, I mean, that pops better really, doesn't it? So that is the nearly there starts of the pattern. I'm going to choose 2 new colours and get that underway soon. While I was away at Stitch Fest then, I decided I'd cast on another one of my brioche cowls, and because it's a nice, easy, rhythmical knit. You know, you've got one colour you're knitting on, one colour you're purling on, and because brioche in the round is so much easier. And we have a brioche cowl that has come out of it. And the pattern for this now is actually on Ravelry, or will be on Ravelry soon, and the website. And I will be launching fairly shortly some kits for this and another pattern to go with it, which is rather exciting. So you need 2 skeins of contrasting yarn, and you will make this and something else to go with it. So accessories knitting, rather exciting there. So once we finish with the brioche, we've also been doing, I've been doing knitting school, the beginners run again. So we've done the basics, knits and purls. We've also done increasing and decreasing. So I've rejigged a few patterns for those. And they will also be coming out on Ravelry fairly soon. It's quite a lot to keep up with. Everything that goes into putting something out on Ravelry, you know, with the sort of the design process, then getting a couple of people to test it out for me, which is great because the Knit School people do an absolutely fabulous job of that, especially from a beginner knitter point of view. So I know what I need to add to the pattern to help beginners through this process. So this month then we have looked at slip stitch knitting for texture. And unfortunately, it appears that my hat has had a wee accident. This is my favouriteest hat in the world, so this will get repaired. I doubt I've got any of the yarn. It looks like, if you look at it, it looks like it's been cut. So maybe I caught a thread at some point and then it's just through. So I'm going to have to sew that back together really carefully. But that's really annoying. And I think, looking at it, it was a slip stitch row that caught. Oh, something has just fallen onto my head. Right, I'm back. That was the Queen Wasp that has been flying around in here for a couple of days, since Monday. Basically trying to build her overwintering nest in here. up in the rafters. Sorry, I keep checking up just to see if I could see any of those little domes that start to appear. They do make them, sort of like the Queen will come in and make one in the ceiling this time of year, ready, gives her a good head start for next year. And I'm like, no, thank you, out you go. So fingers crossed she won't be back in, but you never know. She didn't look, she looked quite sleepy. So she's been lobbed outside. Right, yeah, so this hat. So we've been slip stitch knitting for texture. This is my lattice hat pattern. And it's a really nice way of just giving a really good visual interest. I mean, this has been worn God knows how many times. As I said, favourite hat. It's a really good way of giving you some visual interest in your knitting. And it's really simple. So we've been doing that one in knit school, in knit university, where I go to the wool shop in Newcastle Emlyn to teach those things, and also have some of the classes here at the cabin. Next month is a month off for Christmas. So they've been given 2 projects that they can choose from. They can choose from the lattice hat, and there's also a lattice socks pattern. So they've got those to choose from to run them through over Christmas. And then next month we go, so January, we are going to start looking at slipping stitches for colour as well. So mosaic knitting will be in there, which is rather exciting. Lots of swatches, lots of bits and pieces that I've been knitting up. So I knit a square up for every single knit school module. I knit up, I start knitting up at least the patterns if I haven't knit them already before. Most of them, it's quite lucky, I've got quite a nice back catalogue of simple patterns that I can repurpose for this knitting school, so that has been good. We've released the autumn colourways. I shall insert some pictures of those here. For November, so the November colourways are Oak and Ash, Warm Hearth, Iron Kettle and Candlelight, and I think they would knit up really nicely into those brioche cows, and have been really hard pushed not to cast another one on in those to pop out in the bespoke handmade section of my website. But maybe once things calm down a little bit over Christmas, maybe, because I will be taking the Christmas holidays off with the kids. So I will be doing minimal bits and pieces until the new year, once they have finished school. Excuse the bouncing. He is now taken to putting this wet ball in my lap. So that is now rolling off my lap, and then this is the new game. He will chase it round on the floor. If it goes under the cupboard soon, maybe we'll have some peace and quiet for a moment, but probably no such luck. So yes, behind me you've got a glimpse of, well, the last one of the December colourways, if I can find out where my finger needs to go. Is there at the top. Christmas box colours then in the middle, and then towards the bottom of that rack. And those ones are some of the winter club yarns. So in beginning of December, so this month, we will have the release of the winter club, the winter yarn club. There are 4 spaces for DK, 4 spaces for sock on this. And yeah, that's one of the colourways hiding over there. That one is, I think, January's one. There will be 3 colourways for that club, because it's a 3-month club. All my clubs now are going to be 3-month clubs. One is in the dye pans that you might be able to hear clicking alongside me. That's Ivy and Hellebore. That will be February's colourway. January's is Winter Birch. And then, don't think you can see it. No, you can't see it. It's hiding. Then the last one then is Mistletoe and Pine. Mistletoe and Pine. So a lovely mix of greens with a little splash of natural for those lovely big fat mistletoe berries. That will be December's one. So as I said, there's going to be a sock version and a DK version. There are just 4 spaces in each club. Basically, I do my clubs to how I can manage, and that is it. So there's the 4. They are pre-dyed. They may, if there's any left over, they may come out at a market later on, but don't guarantee it. There's only 4 of each. Christmas box wise then, in November, so these will all get posted out at the beginning of December, and then obviously beginning of January and beginning of February for the other yarns. Little tail going past there. The Christmas boxes are launching this weekend. There's going to be a sock box, and the sock box is Snowdrift and Stone as the colourway. And then the DK box is a luxury one this year. It is 2 skeins of yarn, 1 Verdant, 1 Aberpacker, and it is in the colourways Berries and Bark. And there will be 2 patterns that come out with this. One is going to be the Brioche Cowl pattern, and the other one is the secret one that's going to come with it. It is another accessory pattern, so it will enable you to use up the 2 skeins of yarn, basically. And all the Christmas boxes will have a selection of locally sourced Christmas treats as well. One year, I do hope that I will be able to get my husband to get small jars, and then we can jar up some little tiny jars of honey, of our own honey, to go into the Christmas boxes. That is the plan. One day it might happen. But as you know, rather busy around here. I have wound on some yarn this week then. So I have wound a final skein of Pleef Tarn that was knocking about. I don't like having single skeins knocking about for very long because they get lost in translation. The last skein of Air that was knocking about, and then my son has chosen this one. You may have seen this week I posted a photo of Matty with his new hat. Well, William has chosen blue for his colourway. I haven't let him to come down and choose the yarn because otherwise he'll want to go through every single box, and that is just no. So I've chosen that one for him, and he wanted a fluffy pom-pom like Matty's one. So he's got this one. These are fabulous pom-poms from the Crafty Bird that I have had in stash for ages, waiting for that perfect project. And now one of my children is that perfect project. I have a few more as well that I will be attaching to different bits and bobs. I need to find, I've got another box of them somewhere in the house, so I need to go hunting for those. We still haven't got every bit of stash down here. So hopefully from the weekend, the weather is going to improve slightly and I'll be able to bring my sewing machines down. I'm going to have a sewing table across the back of this sofa with my overlocker and my normal sewing machine. So sewing is finally making it into the cabin, ready for some plans that I've got for next year. So watch this space. Lots of exciting things happening for 2026, which I may talk about more in the December podcast. Depends on how far along my thought processes are. But we shall go from there. I've got courses planned, lots of different bits and bobs here at the cabin, and lots of different things planned for Knit School. So that is your November roundup from me. I said not a huge amount of finished projects because I've been really working hard on that Stephen West shawl to get it right, and I do love knitting them. It really does work my brain out, which is quite good. And yeah, there are still some of those kits left on the website. Each one is unique with our kits. I do try to put together, I dye up X number of colourways and then try and put them together so there's nobody has the chance of having the same shawl, which I think is rather nice. If you're going to knit something, especially something as complex as that, you don't want hundreds of people to have the same one. Anyway, see you all in December. Bye.